Do you remember what you wanted to be when you were a kid? And I don't mean like what you thought you might do, fireman, doctor, construction worker. I mean what you really wanted to be. You know, things like princess, space adventurer, treasure hunter. Myself, I wanted to be a superhero. And not just any superhero, I wanted to be the real deal. I wanted to be Spider-Man. Nay, I was Spider-Man. Not that I really thought I had wall-climbing, crime-fighting Spidey sensibilities, but at the very least, I was Peter Parker, and I could, one day, become Spider-Man. I was entirely capable. And I couldn't have been the only one who felt like this. After all, Spider-Man is one of the most relatable and popular protagonists of all time, having been featured in hundreds of comics and countless derivative works. In the last 2 decades alone, he's been in 3 major film series, the newest of which, Homecoming, just came out this month. He really is a staple of modern pop culture. A cliche even, often parodied or copycatted, but it wasn't always this way. Our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man came from humble beginnings, first appearing in issue number 15 of the Amazing Fantasy series, and he probably wouldn't have even been published at all if this wasn't slated to be the final issue of the series anyway. You see, in the pre-Spider-Man era, superheroes were everything that Spider-Man isn't. They were all powerful, mentally unwavering stoic figures. They were perfect. They were better than everyone else, and that was the point. They didn't fight the cold. They fought evil. They didn't struggle with relationships. They won them. And they certainly weren't teenagers, and if they weren't heroes, they were sidekicks. And they weren't supermen, they were superboys. In short, they were as far removed from their readers as they could possibly be. But Spider-Man was, and is, different, because first and foremost, Spider-Man is Peter Parker. A normal, mild-mannered teenager with normal, mild problems.
She wants to make a warrior out of me. Warrior? Me? Heck, I'm still fighting acne.
He's awkward and shy, he worries, he struggles with his love life, he feels guilt and fear, and above all else, he has fun. He's not stoic, he fucking loves being a superhero. He's relatable, and that's what really matters in a story. As creators, there are 3 major methods that we can use to create these close relationships between the character and the audience. They are sympathy, empathy, and antipathy. In general, I think everybody already knows this intuitively, but it doesn't hurt to formalize these things. An antipathetic character is one that we despise. We want them to fail. In a lot of stories, this role isn't actually all too important, but in comics, I'd argue that it might just be the most important. If I asked for your favorite superhero, you might name 1, maybe 2, but for every favorite superhero that you have, you're gonna have at least a couple favorite villains. Actually, the supervillains might just be the reason that you like the superhero in the first place. A sympathetic character is one that we can feel for. We understand their goals and needs and want them to succeed because we care for them. Think Superman. We worry when we think that he's in trouble, and we cheer when he succeeds. An empathetic character is one that we can feel with. Their goals feel like our goals. Their failures, our failures. We don't worry when they're in trouble. We get scared. And when they succeed, we don't cheer. We feel proud, as though it's also our own victory. Empathy isn't always necessary to create a good character, but it's often the goal over sympathy. Empathy just brings you closer to the story. That's why when you have a sympathetic hero, the storytellers will often throw in characters who are in danger that are so generic that we can easily paint ourselves onto them, and then easily identify and empathize with them. They're necessary to make us feel the full weight of the scenes. But when you have an empathetic hero, the danger and consequences are all on them. These generic characters aren't necessary because the storytellers don't need anything extra to make us feel any more connected to the story. We already see ourselves in the hero, and so we're already fully emotionally invested. We don't need to be reminded how scared we, as an average generic citizen, would be, because we already feel that through the character. Empathy creates, usually, a much richer emotional experience. It feels more real. Which is why most superhero movies that are seen as gritty or mature or realistic have a heavy focus on the protagonist's flaws. It makes them more like us, more real. They're not like anti-heroes. We don't wish that we could be and act like them. They're empathetic heroes. We already are like them. For a lot of superheroes, it's actually pretty hard to create a story like this that stays true to their roots. Most superheroes were created without flaws, and that was on purpose. They were supposed to be model citizens, marvelous human specimens, something that the audience could and should always strive to be, but could never quite get to. Sure, a lot of them had some clear, fatal weaknesses, but not in the same way that you and I have them. For us, our flaws are hard to identify, and that's what makes them such a struggle. And so a lot of the time for superheroes, the only relatable flaw that a storyteller can explore is weakness in general. The loss of strength, aging, which is why these topics have come up so much in newer superhero movies. But not with Spider-Man, if you're gonna do it well anyway. At his very core, Spider-Man is, and always should be, an empathetic hero. It's in his roots. And that's the secret to making a good Spider-Man movie. To make him relatable, like us. To make a good Spider-Man movie is to make a great Peter Parker movie. And that's not to say that Peter Parker should be the main focus. We already know that that doesn't quite work. It'll get you close and you can have some fun and some real powerful moments. But at the end of the day, people are still coming for Spider-Man. Not a story about a boy growing up or about romance, but a movie about the web slinger that we all love to watch. But it still can't just be all about Spider-Man either. Sure, without that half, there's no super, there's no fun, no real danger, no excitement. But without his first half, there's no depth, no story. All you've got is a monkey swinging around New York in a unitard. For Spider-Man to actually work, he always has to be a relatable guy and an action hero, because we always want to care. When we see Peter, we should be thinking about Spider-Man. We should see how being a superhero affects him, how as average people ourselves, it would affect us. Peter Parker has to be there, so as to remind us that Spider-Man is a person, just like all of us. A teenager even, and the stress and danger of being a superhero is going to take a toll on him. Likewise, when we see Spider-Man, we should be thinking about the boy behind the mask. How does being human make being superhuman more difficult? And again, he is just some guy. He's also going to have a lot of fun, wouldn't you? Spider-Man is about being human. Peter Parker is about being super, and not the other way around. So, dear Marvel, I'd like to ask of you a favor. I haven't seen a new Spider-Man movie yet, but when I do, I really hope that this time, finally, you'll be giving all us Peter Parkers the movie that Spider-Man truly deserves. Thanks for watching.